Hey guys, how are you? Look, life is tough. It's not easy. It's not meant to be easy. And there's an issue that's going on. The issue is this: there is a higher state and a natural state. We have a default state, which is our natural state, which is aligned to the physical, and then we have a higher state, which is our spiritual state, that is aligned to possibilities, potentialities, to the ethereal, and it's limitless. And so there's a battle that's going on between the natural state, our default state, that wants to kind of, or is resisting limitless potential because it's stuck, it's in the physical, and it's resisting because of matter. And our potentiality, which is our higher state, the ideal state, that sees all the possibilities and wants to do all that is possible. So the variance, the difference, is the action that needs to take place, right? And so that is what's going on constantly as a battle between us all the time, in every moment of every second of every day. All the time it's going on. And so that's why life is not easy, because we have this ideal state, this calling that's telling us, we need to push, we need to progress, we need to do positive. And then we are stuck within our physical, natural state that doesn't want to do all those things because it requires effort and work. And so, what is the solution? The solution is transcendence. What does that mean? Transcendence means that we have to get to a state in our mind where we are actually removed from our physical. And the story goes, that we're a physical being, that we're a spiritual being in a physical body. And our journey in life is to become that spiritual being again, and kind of exclude ourselves from the physical, but while still being here on planet Earth, while still being in the physical. So that excluding ourselves, that kind of disconnecting ourselves from the physical, allowing our mind to be the control, the guide, the navigation, and then the mind telling the body and the physicality what to do. And so it's in control, and so you're disconnecting from the physical, and then you're navigating the physical. That's what's called transcendence. It's you being a spiritual being in a physical body, but while still here on Earth, but disconnected from the physical. You're now navigating the physical. And so transcendence is another word for enlightenment, that people talk about enlightenment. So the journey of every human being is to try and get to a state where their direction, their navigation, they're behind themselves in terms of their spiritual, their ideal, their higher state is taking control, and then they're navigating and pushing the physical on a moment-to-moment basis and every second. And so when we can get to that state, then we don't have this disequilibrium, this variance between our higher state and our natural state. And we're in a flow state. We're in peace, in harmony. We're in contentment, and we're in action mode. So now there isn't this this dissonance, this variance, this what you might call stress between what you want to do and who you are. You're actually actioning what you are, and you're actioning who you are. So there's none of this thinking. The thinking is the issue. The gap is the stress. The stress is the thinking, the delay between the idea and the action. So you've got to take the action. And in order to be able to take the action, you have to step back one stage and be able to create a state where you are, enlightened, where you're able to get to a situation where you're owning your natural state. And then when you're owning your natural state, then in that situation you're creating action. How do you do that? How do you get to a situation where you're able to, get transcendence? What I say is it's a process, and it's a step-by-step process whereby you have to take small actions, consistent actions each and every day to build what I call, certainty in a world of uncertainty. So we live in a world of uncertainty. We're not in control of our lives, meaning on the outside world, events happen to us. People talk at us, and we have to, respond or not react to that. So we have to get to a situation where, in this uncertain world, we create certainty. And the way we create certainty is by consistency in action and building routines and rituals. And so, the routines and rituals are like exercise. So, for example, you wake up consistently on time at a particular time, which means really the prerequisite is you go to sleep at a particular time, which means the prerequisite to that is you don't do things when it's getting to bedtime where they will agitate and excite you. You don't jump on the phone, you're not on the computer, you might be reading a book, you're not watching TV. All these things kind of activate your subconscious mind, and you don't want to be doing that. What you want to be doing is you want to be kind of slowing down or getting tired. So, exercise late at night can help you be more tired to go to sleep. Having a nice warm shower, getting into a very comfortable bed, those kind of things will put you into a good state where you can go to sleep so that you can wake up regularly on the same time. And then when you do wake up, then you want to start with your best foot forward. You want to take action in a positive way. From a Muslim perspective, me being from a Muslim background, there is the dawn prayer where you wake up ahead of Mother Earth. So Mother Earth hasn't yet, received the full light of day from the sun. And so you're praying, you're getting ahead of nature by, praying, meditating. And so when the light appears in the day, you've already done something positive ahead of that. So you're not trying to catch up psychologically with nature, with the day. You're ahead of the day. And that kind of creates a positive state for you. And then there is what I say is you can do exercise. You can do your journal. You can do reading. You can do your affirmations. I take cold showers. Anything as a routine that will kind of involve you investing in yourself and creating a good state, a positive state, a state where you get ahead psychologically. And then once you've done that, then, that's the routine and ritual that creates certainty. So if you stay to that routine and ritual and you keep a routine and ritual throughout your day, then the uncertainty that you have about everything else you're not in control of is taken away, because you have the certainty of the routines and rituals that you're doing. And so when things get stressful for you, you can always anchor back to your routine and ritual, which will create that certainty. And then you use that certainty that you have, you use it as a platform to jump off from. So imagine, for example, you're a soccer player, a football player. So all these guys, they do stretching and warm up and exercises before they actually go onto the field. All these routines and rituals I've just mentioned are the stretching and the warm up and the exercise before you go and perform on the field, before you go and perform on your day. And so when you have stretched yourself, now you're more supple and available to perform very well. So in the same way, when you do the routine and rituals of prayer, you get to set yourself up onto a platform from which you can jump off. And that jumping off is then, creating a state, further state, What that means is basically, you know, what I say is that you have to recognize that a higher power exists, that there is something bigger and greater than yourself that exists, that has created you, that's put you here on planet Earth, and that's going to take you away. Because the fact is that you didn't choose to exist, you didn't put yourself on planet Earth, and you're not going to take yourself away. So there is something that has done that. Call that what you may call that nature, you may call that evolution, you may call that science, you may call that God, you may call that infinite intelligence, the higher power source, whatever you want to call it. The point is it exists, and you know, we just ascribe a name to an experience we are familiar with. So that experience is the higher power, its source, and you become aware of that, and then you connect to that. Because if the higher power does exist, you would argue that you should be able to, if it is just, be able to access and communicate in some way with that. So your way of communicating with the higher power is in your sense of awareness of the higher power existing first. And in that awareness, you communicate through thought, talk to the higher power. Whatever you refer the higher power to be, talk to it. That is called prayer. And through that, when you're in a certain state, then you get more and more awareness of the higher power, and more awareness of the fact that you exist, gratitude to the higher power for your own existence, and the recognizing the shortness of life, and also, you know, the temporary nature of life, so that you have to maximize it. You're gonna not live here forever. So all these things, when you think about them, these are routines and rituals ahead of you living and performing your day. And so what they do is they create state for you. And what that state is if you get to the highest level, is transcendence. You disconnect as a spiritual being in a physical body. You disconnect from your physical limitations, and you're at this high spiritual state. And when you're at that state, then you're in tune with your intuition. And I always call the intuition the God particle. So intuition is what connects you between yourself and the higher power as a signal. And so you use your intuitive signal to then be instinctual, and what people call the flow state, being instinctual and then taking action. So action is not, there's no space between thought and action. When you're instinctual, you just take action, and so there's no delay, there's no stress, and that's what's called living, being present to the moment, living in action all the time. And so we've got to try and get to that. That's the ideal. And our dissonance, our difficulty each and every day, is that we have this difference between our higher state and our natural state, and this difference is what we've got to work on all the time to try and create a narrowing of the gap, a narrowingness of the difference, and then when we get to that point, then we have to sustain and maintain that state as well. And you need to nourish that and feed that state with your routines and rituals, but on an ongoing basis, so it never ends. But when you're in that thin line of what I call thin line of success, then it doesn't need to end. And if you know you can sustain and maintain it, that feeling that you have in that state is, you know, what they call transcendence, enlightenment. It's actually very beautiful, because then there is no dissonance, what some people would call suffering. There's no you know, agitation. It's a state of peace, and definitely in Islam, that's the you know, state we're trying to get to while we're here on planet Earth, is a state of peace, of contentment, fulfillment, but while living and taking action in our everyday lives. So that's where I am, and you know, I understand we're all, each one of us, each human being, we're sharing this experience of trying to figure it all out and trying to get our peace, our fulfillment, our transcendence, our enlightenment in each and every moment. And you know, I feel the suffering with you guys. You know, I'm on the same journey as you. I'm no different to anybody, and I have my highs and lows as well. So it's difficult, I recognize that, but at the same time, it's beautiful, the pursuing of the journey, and then living on the journey of transcendence, and being and doing action in the same space, and you know, trying to fulfill who you are. That's the beauty of life. You know, our journey is greatness. That's what I say. You know, I want to be a great human being, and everybody's journey is towards greatness, and greatness is our alignment, our you know, consistency and congruence between our ideal state and our natural state, where the ideal state is managing and governing the natural state, so it owns that space, and then so you can take the two together. So you know, that is what's called greatness, and if you can do it in every moment to moment until you pass away, then you're in a, you know, in the perfect state. So I just wanted to have a chat and say, you know, it's cool. You know, we're all suffering together, but there is hope, and there's constant hope, and you have to recognize that there's constant hope. It's not that you can't do it. You can't basically determine your outcome. You can't give in, you can't give up. It's not your choice to do that. Your choice and your responsibility is to put the effort in, and the outcome isn't decided by you. It's decided by whoever put you here on earth and whoever's going to take you away. It's not going to be you. So you didn't decide to be here. You can't decide whether you win or fail. You just have to put your best foot forward and keep and maintain that best foot forward, and then let the universe, let the world, let the higher power decide who you are. You can't decide for yourself. So there's always hope. Take action, people, and I'll talk to you later.